Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and as promised, we're doing a series on cheap cuts, and today I'm going to show you how to make amazing chili so you can barbecue without spending a lot of money. For the chili that we're making today, we're going to be using stew meat. This is very cheap and it's delicious. Now, the reason that I don't like to use ground beef in chili is because I've eaten too many chilies with kind of boiled tasting ground beef, where it's kind of spongy, it's kind of gray, there's nothing appealing about it. Now, you can brown the ground beef first, which you should do if you're going to use ground beef, but I just enjoy eating bigger chunks of beef when I eat chili. It's just more satisfying to me than little ground up pieces, unless I'm gonna use, chips or something to dip it. So we're using stew meat today, and that gives us an opportunity to smoke it. And as somebody who loves to smoke meat, I don't need more than one excuse to do it. This recipe calls for 2 pounds of stew meat, and we're using stew meat from Porter Road. And because it's from Porter Road, it's dry aged, so that should even kick up the flavor one extra notch. Pro tip: if you want to take it up even one more notch, you can use tenderloin tips, which is basically just the end of the tenderloin that they can't cut into steaks. The meat is just as delicious, it's just as tender, but because they can't cut it into steaks, they sell it for cheaper. So if you want to do the extra pro awesome version, you can use tenderloin tips, but we're going to rock with stew meat today because the point is, cheap cuts, that's what we're going to do. The plan is we're going to take 2 pounds of that stew meat, put it in this aluminum foil tray, and then we're going to put it on the smoker at 225 to build in smoke flavor. Now, there are 2 ways that you can avoid that gray boiled meat flavor inside your chili. One is you brown the meat over high heat, which is a great way. And the other way is you can smoke it first. But what we're going to do today is we're going to do both. We're going to brown that meat by cooking it over high heat. So that way we get the benefit of smoke and the benefit of browning the meat. You get that Maillard, almost steak-like flavor. All that's going to do is kick up the flavor in this chili up one more notch. So we're all about trying to make it as delicious as possible. And the beauty of chili is you can make it your own. You can do whatever you want with it, and it can still turn out to be delicious. So use this as a guideline. If you really want to follow this recipe, I guarantee you it's going to be really good. But if you have an idea of something else you'd like to throw in, by all means, do it. We're going to get these out of the package, put them in the tray, and we're not going to season them with anything because we're going to be seasoning the chili. Also, we want to leave a maximum amount of this area on the outside surface of the meat exposed to absorb smoke flavor. $225 for 60 to 90 minutes just to build some smoke flavor on there. Before we get any further in today's video, I want to thank today's sponsor, Porter Road. If you don't know about Porter Road delivers world-class meats to your door. It's like having a local butcher because you get access to all kinds of cuts you're not going to find at the local grocery store. And beyond that, it's of better quality. So Porter Road shows that taking care to raise animals properly results in better quality meat. So whether it's the pork or the beef or the lamb or the poultry, you can tell when you have Porter Road products simply because there's better flavor and you have a better product that you spend time making. Porter Road works with local farmers so they're intimately acquainted with how the animals are raised, which results in better quality meat. Also, their beef is dry aged, but unlike other places, they dry age the animal as a hanging carcass, which means you don't have the waste that you usually get with dry aged meat. That means you don't have to trim off dry, desiccated pieces of meat on the outside of your steak. Instead, you can fire it up and enjoy the delicious meat that they have. Doing the dry age process the way they do, it allows that enzymatic activity to create a deeper and richer flavor in the meat that you can enjoy at home. So if you want phenomenal quality meat to show up at your door, click on the link in the description below. You get 15% off of your first order, and any orders over $100 shipped for free. While that stew meat is smoking, now we're going to do some cutting. So the beauty of chili, like I said before, is that you can use kind of whatever you want. So if you don't have yellow onions, you could use red onions. If you don't have either, you could use white onions. If you don't have any of those 3, you can do what I'm doing today, use shallots, because I love shallots. And if I'm making this recipe, I would usually use these anyway. So got shallots, we're going to have some garlic, and then some jalapeños. I really like Serrano peppers, those are my favorite, but this is the stuff that I had lying around. So with some spices and other ingredients that I had just hanging out in the pantry, I can make the chili. All I need is some cheap stew meat. In the description below, I'm gonna have the full recipe for how to make this chili with all the teaspoons of this and the tablespoons of that and the half cups of this, and all of that is gonna be in there. Now, I'm gonna kind of try to let you know how much of each thing I'm using as we go along, but I know I'm gonna forget stuff, so the full recipe is there. Hit the show more, and it will give you the full recipe. So if you have any questions about how much of whatever I used, the answer will be there. The second thing is, If you're gonna slice open some chilies, it's always a good idea to wear gloves. So when I get to those jalapenos, I don't wanna have a nasty surprise later when I go to the bathroom. I'm not gonna go into a lot of details here, but it's not pleasant, so wear gloves. Last note, whenever you're slicing open the chilies, if you're gonna use chilies in your recipe, if you keep the seeds in, it's gonna be spicier than if you take the seeds out. I love spicy, so I'm gonna keep those seeds in there because I think it even enhances the flavor, because to me, the spice note is something that you can dial up or dial down as a way to bring out different flavors in the dish. All right, that's the chopping. If you want to do this in the food processor, totally okay, no shame in that. I'm just trying to practice with a knife and get better with it. But one thing that's important to know is that the finer you chop your shallots or onions, the more they'll disintegrate when you cook them down, and they'll just kind of become part of the flavor. You're not going to be chewing on pieces of onion or shallot. Also with the chilies, in this case jalapenos, you should maybe taste them first to see how hot they are, because there can be a wide variation from one time that you get them to the next time, and you don't want to blow anybody away with something that's too spicy. Then finally, the garlic is going to provide a lot of savoriness. It's going to make it really tasty. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our pot, and then instead of using vegetable oil, which doesn't really provide any flavor, I'm going to use lard. So a lot of people like to cook down bacon, but I think this is an easier way. Just throw some lard in there. It makes it taste even better. So lard in the pot, we get that nice and hot, throw in the shallots, let those kind of disintegrate. At the same time, we're gonna throw in the jalapenos because we want those to kind of break down and want all those flavors to release. And then finally, we throw in the garlic, and when the garlic starts to get really aromatic, we know it's time to put in the meat. With these veggies cooked down, it's time to go get the beef. Now the shallots have cooked down and kind of disintegrated. They're going to provide a nice sweetness to this chili. Also, the peppers are going to provide some spiciness, of course, because of the capsaicin. And then finally, the garlic with that savory note is another balance to the flavors that we're going to get. So as we keep adding things to this, you're going to see that I'm trying to hit as many notes as possible. So I let this go about 2.5 hours just to try to build in extra smoke flavor, because usually on an offset, you get it quickly. With a pellet smoker, it takes a little longer. So let's see. As you guys can see from the deep red color here, we got some smoke on these pieces of beef. Now we're gonna see if we can get a sear on it too. Remember that Maillard reaction? It's very important. Next up, fire roasted crushed tomatoes. They don't have to be fire roasted. I just really like the flavor, and I think it contributes to the overall dish. Next up, tomato paste. This helps to kind of thicken the sauce a little bit, and it provides a richness that really helps the dish out. Next, Coleman's dry mustard powder. It's a totally underrated ingredient, but it provides a different flavor profile than everything else that we've been using. So just a little bit of this, and it's gonna round out the flavor even more. Finally, we have our last ingredient, and it's all about balancing flavor. So we have some sweetness from the shallots that we cooked down earlier. We have some sharpness from the black pepper. We have some spiciness from the chili. We're gonna have saltiness from the salt that we add, and we'll balance that all out at the end. But this provides some bitterness. This is an IPA, so it's got a lot of hops in it, and the bitterness will complement all the robust flavors that we have in here already. You can use whatever you want. This is what I found to be the best. It also provides some of the maltiness and sweetness that you get from the grains that went into making this beer. Also, if it's not sweet enough for you, you can add some brown sugar or something like that, but typically I don't like my chilies to be too sweet. Maybe just a little light sweetness, but that's up to you. That's something that you can add or remove from the recipe. You just, at this point, are letting it cook till it reaches the right thickness and the meat becomes the tenderness that you want. So you can always add more liquid, that's not a problem. Just let it keep going until you get those two things right, and when you do, it's gonna be magical. The chili's thick and the meat is perfectly tender. So at this point, I like to use cheddar cheese, put some cheddar cheese on top, and then something green. So you can use green onions, you could use parsley, you could use cilantro, whatever you want. But those are the things that I like to put with it. Some people like sour cream. Whatever you want to do to dress this up, that's your call. But I'm gonna do some sharp cheddar and then some parsley, and I'm gonna go to town. All right, it's the moment of truth. We're gonna taste this and see if we took something cheap and made it into something delicious. Yeah, as my pappy used to say, you can't beat that with a stick. Man, that's really good. It's even better than I thought it was gonna be. That meat is so good. Here, let me show you. Not dry at all, but here, on the cutting board. Okay, it's got a little cheese and stuff attached, but look at this piece of meat. You just, with a fork, just cuts right open. Here, I'll do it again across the grain. There's no better way to use this stuff. And the cool thing about it was, I made this with stuff that I had lying around the house. So you can definitely make great stuff without spending a lot of money. Now what you guys can do for me is in the comments down below, let me know what you want to see me cook next. So for me, this has everything I like. It's savory, it's got lots of different flavors in it. I got to smoke meat, you taste the smoke in the meat, it's tender, it's awesome. I love this. What do you guys want to see me do? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, you can hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel for more fun and informative barbecue content. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at MADSCIENTISTBBQ. I'll see you guys next time. Via the Maillard reaction, when we heat it in, okay, and then we're gonna brown that meat because of the Maillard reaction when we put it over high heat after we've, number one, in the description. And if I'm making this recipe, I would usually use shallots. She sells seashells by the seashore. I'm a thistle sifter. I have a sieve of sifted thistles and a sieve of unsifted thistles because I'm a thistle sifter. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could Chuck Norris? All of it.
Say toy boat 3 times fast.
Toy boat. Whoa, that's harder. Yeah. Toy boat. I can't do it. Toy boat. I can't do it.